Here's the SWH gear page. Why is this chair so... There we go. When are they going to add me to Mortal Kombat?
Bam! Welcome back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Duncan's joined.
Chaotic Mundi Conans, and you know what? A special shout out to all you beautiful Twi'leks out there to today's video where we're about to have a conversation here. A conversation which I feel like has been bubbling in Galaxy of Heroes for a little bit now. And that conversation is dramatic effects, please. Is Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano a failure? Or more specifically, dare I say, from the deepest, darkest parts of the human soul that I can maybe say, is she a successor to Lord Failure? Bum, bum, bum. Well, let's have that conversation today, my friends. This has been one, that we've been gradually having over the course of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. She's been in the game for about... God dang, give me the cable. She's been in the game for about 6 months now. And through live streams, hanging out with you guys, comment section, looking at Reddit posts, Discord posts, the question often comes up, is this character... did she miss the mark? Is she a failure? Is she the successor to Lord Failure? And I could summarize these feelings in several ways. I'm just gonna cut to the chase right now. Do I think she's a Lord Failure? Not 100%. Lord Failure, I would say, was a failure pretty much on all fronts. At least with the Ahsoka Tanos we're gonna talk about today. I would take her over first gen Lord Vader. Let's make sure we have a distinction here. First gen Lord Vader, a failure all across the board where basically they had to do a complete rebuild from top to bottom. Holy cow. That's insane. First of its kind for a Galactic Legend where they had to just completely rebuild the team, and closest we've ever gotten is them saying, yeah, we kind of messed up. As an apology, can you buy all these brand new characters? And because they're clones, they had us by the Cajoles. They had us by the Melu runs. And you better believe the community, I bet they made some pretty big bucks off the Galaxy of Heroes players. But it's Dark Side clones. You can't go wrong with that. But new Lord Vader, awesome. But let's keep going back to the topic of Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano. Gosh, this has been such a hard conversation because even the moment we started getting requirements, that little Lord Vader in the back of your mind, you could hear him weeping and crying and moaning and complaining about sand in the back of my mind. The second we started getting the requirements, and this is where I think everything stems from, this right here. If you're gonna require the most of everything, basically, you better be the best at most of everything out there. And let's start off with this. Problem number one with Ahsoka Tano. The requirements. When we first got Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano requirement, it was like, oh, a Relic 9. It's to be expected, right? Leia didn't really have any Relic 9s, and then Lord Vader had a bunch of Relic 8s. They were bound to push it. Okay, one Relic 9. Then, we got the second batch, and it's like, oh, okay, second Relic 9. It's all right. Leviathan's got 2 Relic 9. Not a big problem, right? Well, then we got hit with the triple whammy. The triple-decker cheeseburger. And then we got a third Relic 9. And then all of a sudden, big concerns, big expectations came to the table from the Galaxy Heroes community. And listen, that wasn't even all. We still had some Relic 8 stuff, all brand new marquees requiring Relic 7. Do y'all know how many Chirotechs were needed for this Galactic Legend? Hold the phone. Can you put a pin in it? Hit pause for a second.
I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
Because let me show you something. Here's the SWH gear page. Why is this chair so... There we go. When are they going to add me to Mortal Kombat? Anyways, I want to show you something. Here is Lord Failure 1.0 requirements, and probably not 100% fair of a comparison because technically you got to get all these requirements and then you have to get the new Dark Side clones. So let's just for a moment put that to a side. Ignore that Dark Side clones came to the game. As you guys know, when you look at a farm, when you're deciding, should I go with X, D, should I go for the Coke, should I go for the Pepsi? When you're making that decision on what you're going to do next in this game, Chirotech is usually where you base your primary concern. Chirotech is the gate before all other gates. True, put it on a t-shirt. Chirotech, let's take a quick look at this. Lord Failure Chirotech. Can we get a little calculator over here? Oh my gosh, Gary, you are the best. So if we go ahead and look at Lord Vader's requirements, 1950 Chirotech, god dang, plus 1350. What does that put us at? 3,300. This is not really including the, the General Anakin Skywalker, the Queen Amidala, not Padme Amidala requirements. 3,300 Chirotech, which kind of a hefty price. But what if I told you Ahsoka's, she's like LOL, LMAO, ROFL. Does anyone even say ROFL anymore? That one pretty much went extinct. Let me clear this out real quick. Now let's throw in the one and only galactic legend, Ahsoka. Well, the conversation's gonna be a wee bit different, my friends. Here we go, satellite radio coming into the boom boom. Now all of a sudden, if we're gonna take a look at galactic legend Ahsoka, 3,300 is gonna seem like a banger. It's gonna seem like it's a budget version. So we got 2,350 of those and 1,650 of these. 4,000 Chirotech, or the appropriate term is Cryotech, because you should be crying when you're trying to get all these gear pieces. This is problem number one, the source of it all. But there's a massive but in the room here. Gary, I get it, man. It's okay. It's okay. I like big butts. Okay. Listen, late night videos, you better believe we're running on minimal brain power, and I don't have much to run with anyways to begin with here. This is the big problem, but these problems, as I said, there's a massive button room, usually can go away. You can be the most expensive character in the game. However, if you can deliver, no one's really gonna bat too much of an eye. However, that's where problem number two comes in. Let's talk about the next problem, Galactic Legends. And here's where things can get a little mixed. What Galactic Legends are beating Ahsoka, and what can Ahsoka beat? Well, let's get down to business. And we're going to assume for the moment, just for a moment, Ezra Bridger Exile's on the team, but hold that phone for a moment. Put a little pause on that thought. Anyways, Ahsoka Tano, thrower on defense, Ezra Bridger Exile. Leia smashes her. Previous Galactic Legend with way more accessible requirements if you think about it. Jabba the Hutt can be a little iffy. Lord Vader can be a little iffy. Kenobi, if you do it right, Kenobi can do all right. Jedi Master Luke can be a little iffy. And then this is, I think, the core problem of it all. Sith Eternal. Without Bane, it could be a little bit more tricky, but you could pull off a Sith Eternal versus Ahsoka. But just like your cheesy stuff, like the Wat Tambor, Gina's Weird Alpha, of course, varies on Datacrons and stuff like that. But it is very well possible. I've done it on my free-to-play account. It feels good for the Sith Eternal owner. Doesn't feel good for the 4,000 Chirotech, several Relic 9s, Relic 8s, and Conquest unit. This, I think, is the key issue right here. SOKR, even before Darkseid Vision Ray, can take Ahsoka to town. And Ray, it's going to be a little complicated. So right there, we're looking at basically some very accessible counters with these three guys right here. And then just like iffy stuff with like Jedi Master Luke, and Kenobi. And then basically her hardest of counters she's hardest against, rework it. The weakest counters versus Ahsoka are mostly, Jabba, Lord Vader V1. Let's just focus on the version 1 stuff. And, maybe Rey. That doesn't really sound like a premium, super powerful, high investment character. However, one could say that is balanced, right? She's got a few very hard counters. She's, stops a couple things. But realistically, how many people are using Rey against Ahsoka? And not too many, right? Jedi Master Luke, yeah, it's Jedi Master Luke, right? The guy's barely hanging on anyways. But Sith Eternal, we got a bit of a problem there. Now let's flip it around. What about Ahsoka versus Galactic Legends? What are the cakewalk battles? Well, it's pretty much what I just said. Again, assuming Ezra's on the team for the moment. That's a funny little assumption. You know what happens when you make an assumption? When you assume something, you make a you-know-what out of you and me, my friend. Take that to the bank. She can easily take out Jabba's, version 1 Lord Vader's. Kenobi should be pretty easy, right? And, Rey could be a little bit annoying, but it's possible. It's just one of those things where I think people want to feel like they're completely blowing away the competition, especially when the previous Galactic Legend, which is way cheaper to get, way easier to get just in general, puts up a good fight. We're going to have a bit of a problem here. So again, here's my thing. what I'm looking at her from an offense and defense perspective in her perfect form, which Ezra Bridger Exile, she's overall she's all right. She's all right plus, in my opinion. I don't think she's as bad as Lord Vader. When Lord Vader came out, where it felt like literally everyone and their mother is beating them. And then when you look at the non-galactic legend things, for the most part, things can go pretty all right for Ahsoka in that regard. However, this is where the key problem comes from. And this is going to be issue number 3. You know, I talk about that perfect lineup with Ezra Bridger Exile. The problem is he's kind of a loose cannon. He's kind of hard, to hold in place, when Homer Simpson's got to strangle Bart. That's Ahsoka and Ezra just staying on the team. The biggest problem is a lot of people find just greater value by taking that Ezra and throwing it in with Galactic Legend Rey. I haven't seen many people in Kyber 1, all my opponents, they're generally doing that, where Ezra goes on Rey, because why would someone want to put Ezra and Ahsoka together when a Sith Eternal can get through it? It doesn't feel good, right? Whereas Sith Eternal is going to have a very difficult time working through a Rey, Ezra, Ben type of lineup. And this really comes down to the problem of Ezra Bridger Exile. And this is also where she kind of overlaps a bit with Lord Failure, where Lord Vader was barely hanging on, even with Maul on the team. And a lot of people want to maybe take Maul off to use Maul, for example, I don't know, Serjun the Star Killer, Malicos type of thing, or the Mandalorians potentially. Well, Ezra Bridger Exile, he's kind of a cheeky one. And I'm not complaining about this, because I love characters that are flexible, that are dynamic, that aren't parked in one team. Because if you don't have that one team, well, you might want to be able to use it for something else. And this guy, great for Jedi Master Luke's, great for the Reys. Heck, he was even good in the old Lord Vader lineup. And of course, great for Ahsoka Tano. And I'm sure you could think of 5 bajillion other ways, Jedi Knight Revan, Jedi Knight Luke, all that great stuff. So massive fan of this guy. Can I get a high five? Okay, how about just a little pet on the head there? There you go. So the problem is this guy's always finding himself leaving, and it's really because of that Sith Eternal issue against Ahsoka Tano. This is what causes the big issue, where if you don't have Ezra on the team, all of a sudden, well, the team's not as good anymore. And now you got issues like, for example, Bo-Katan Mandalore slicing and dicing her way through it. Maybe potentially you could try to get like a Finn Resistance team to work. And now you start opening up that issue with Lord Vader had, where cheap teams can start working through your 4,000 Chirotech lineup. That's kind of a bit of a problem, a bit of an issue, not a feel-good vibe. So part of the blame is to be put on Ezra. Unlike Galactic Legend Rey, her lifter, Ben, when does Ben ever leave the Rey lineup? Never, basically. He's always on the Rey lineup. And if he's on another lineup, it's because someone doesn't have Rey. We see these things of wild, loose cannon lifter units, such as Bane as well. Bane, we don't care about that. Bane's the best. He's a Galactic Legend on his own. But, things like Ezra, people think if they want to get that full value out of Ahsoka, they want to park him with Ahsoka, but he just seems to be better off with Rey from a defensive standpoint. So this comes to an issue with runaway conquest units. And I guess on top of that, you need the conquest unit to get that full power out of Ahsoka Tano. This is the Galactic Legend for the Ahsoka Tano team. For me, plain and simple as day. If you don't have Ezra Bridger Exile, the Ahsoka Tano team I don't know. It feels like a box of Cracker Jacks. I don't even know what that means. I'm sure you guys can figure out what I mean. This is what brings the pizzazz to the team, because Ahsoka Tano, this is kind of a sub point here. Oh my gosh, Ahsoka Tano, where are you at? She does something incredibly well. Let's say something pretty nice before we talk about this issue here. Ahsoka Tano, she is thick. We're talking TIHCCC thick. What she does well is annoying your opponents to death. Whatever team they bringing, Ahsoka Tano, you know how it goes. It's going to always be her at the final stand, and then she's like... Yeah, it's basically just her doing, I don't know, some Pilates, yoga for 5 minutes. That's what she does very well at. Plain as day. But that leads into the larger problem as well. She just feels largely boring. Animations, boring. Her abilities, boring. But we know she's doing stuff. She kind of feels more like a support role more than anything. right? You know, yes, she taunts, so yeah, she's a tank. Yes, she gets great benefits from the Relic 9, but largely her kit in general, it's such a boring kit visually. What else sounds like that? Lord Vader, very boring kit, you know, originally, and animation, boring. I just don't, there's really not much I could say that I love about this character except the fact that she could be annoying in a solo format, and her animations are so long, it feels like it takes away half the time for an opponent, basically. So, I don't know. That's just me when it comes to that. I just find her very uninteresting. That was why when I first tested her, you can go back, I just never fell in love with her. I know she's doing stuff, right? The team can win, right? I could beat a Kenobi, I can dismantle Jabba, you know, some Lord Vaders, and might struggle against Leia, but it just felt like Ezra's doing all the heavy lifting, because Ezra, he's doing power squats, doing some crazy heals, slicing and dicing like he's doing some, you know, cool hibachi dinner. But Ahsoka, no, she's not really doing much of that. So maybe it's just a visual problem that she's got going on. But overall, a lot of people find her largely boring. And then there's really, I think, the last problem here with all this. I don't know. I'm just ranting about this character. I really am. But we'll bring out the cows home in a second. Just hold on. The last major issue that this character has. Let me just take a quick look here with you. The last thing, you know, what are we looking at? You might be like, oh, the greatest piece of content Star Wars ever put out. You might be like, oh my gosh, this is the pinnacle of Galaxy of Heroes. This is, my friend, the Naboo raid, or some like to call it the Nabooty raid. And you might be like, Arnold, why are we looking at this Nabooty? Well, we're looking at this because Ahsoka Tano lacks one. Leia, she had a raid. Jabba, he had a raid. What happened to Ahsoka? Now there is speculation. Remember with CG, they had the, something got pushed aside. Earlier this year, we kind of got word, especially around the Bad Batch season 2 stuff or season 3 stuff. They're like, hey, how we doing, kids? Yeah, we don't really have what we wanted planned out. So there's a possibility that maybe there was a raid, Pretty Patrol raid, something of that nature, where they got canned and maybe she missed out an opportunity. But even besides, let's just say a raid for the moment, the other problem that we have going on for this character, she doesn't have any sort of extracurricular type of events. Jabba, Leia, they both have some pretty solid stuff. Jabba, I would say a little bit better. But, for example, we have ourselves, Leia's got that extra tier at Endor Escalation, whatever it is. And, it's got all right additional rewards, right? People don't find it as beneficial as, unfortunately, I don't have it up right now. But Jabba the Hutt, the mod event, that is one of the most pivotal ways of getting powerful mod materials inside of your roster on a pretty decent basis here. Well, Ahsoka's got none of that. Gosh, she doesn't even have a node inside of territory battles that maybe unlocks a new planet. It gives you extra chirotech, something. So there's no additional payoff. Granted, you do have the Pretty Patrol. This is basically the best you get out of it. But to be fair, the real rewards for Pretty Patrol are when you get to that higher tier of Relic 8s and 9s on them. Whereas the requirements for Galactic Legend Ahsoka, well, you got to park yourself at, what was it again? Relic 7, right? Where's that? Night Trooper, Relic 7, right? Yeah, Enoch, Relic 7. So you gotta go a little bit further. So it's not like, Leia, where you just get her, it's like, oh, boom, I got the extra stuff. Jabba, no additional investment needed, boom. We got it done. So I don't know, I'll leave it up to you guys. If you guys consider Pretty Patrol to be that extracurricular activity like Leia's, like Jabba's, I don't, because Leia and Jabba, you're ready to do the event the second you get laid. No additional investment required. Ahsoka, if you want to get the full benefit of Pretty Patrol, you got to put a little bit more money in the honey, if you know what I mean. So let's bring all the cows home. The other day, what was it? The Google AI thing that we showed on Reddit said that there was a Jedi Knight Raid cow edition. Jedi cow edition. So bring all the cows home. Bring all the Jedi cows home. Ahsoka Tano. Is she the worst character from a performance standpoint? When she's with Ezra Bridger Exile, no. She does all right. I don't think she's the best Galactic Legend from an offensive or defensive perspective. I would say characters like Leia get that big mark in terms of offense, best all-around offense character. Even SLKR, even with his Conquest unit, I would definitely give it to him over Ahsoka. On a defensive perspective, I would much rather give it to, Rey with Ezra or even Leia. Ahsoka, she doesn't really have the high remarks and anything. She's just average plus, maybe decent at something at best. But I don't really find her in any way excelling in something, except long animations and a big, massive health pool. So, long story short, is she the Lord Failure 2.0? I wouldn't go that far, but she's pretty darn close to it. But overall, I could say after 6 months, we kind of just kept on waiting for CG to give us something for Ahsoka. You remember that song? Gosh, good old days. I make myself laugh, people. What can I say? I'm a little wild. I'm a little crazy around here. Overall, Ahsoka, if it wasn't for the crazy high relics, I think I'd be a little bit easier on her. But overall, with Ezra Bridger being a hard cannon to kind of lock into the fort with Ahsoka, with her crazy high relic requirements and gear requirements, the fact that she has no bonus events, and that just from an offense defensive analysis, even with the best case scenario of Ezra Bridger exile, she just kind of just feels okay. And with the Sith Eternal being a big weakness for her, makes it really hard to love this character. So, at the end of the day, I'm going to pass the ball over to you guys. Again, it's a galactic legend. I think you should probably plan later towards your journey in life in Galaxy Heroes. It's not one I'd push earlier. I would honestly rather, funny, gosh, do I want to say this? I feel like I would, just looking at her class of 2024 stuff, I feel like I'd rather get Baylan over Ahsoka. You get great mothers. You build up Thrawn for the fleet, right? And you get the Shin Marok, which is important for Baylan. And it's just less, sometimes less is more. I think Ahsoka's still the better overall character. I don't know. I feel like if for just the investment and time, I'd go for Baylan Skoll, and then, dang, you get great mothers out of it. Shoot. It's a tough conversation. CJ, I think, dropped the ball in this galactic legend a little bit. Didn't go as far as Lord Failure 1.0, but nonetheless, I don't think they got a grand slam out of it. But, who knows? Maybe there'll be more to come out of this character. Obviously, the new raid's not going to be using Ahsoka, but who knows? Maybe additional event come down the road, or maybe some of her requirements that could require for something else. But anyways, people, that's going to wrap it up for today. That is just me yapping and, I don't know, chatting about this character. I just like talking to you guys about all this good stuff. Anyways, you guys let me know down below. At the end of the day, I want to hear your thoughts. Failure or small failure? Thumbs up? Thumbs down. If you give thumbs down, make sure you leave a like on the video. If you give a thumbs up to Ahsoka, leave a like on the video. And more importantly, at the end of the day, even though it might be rough being a Twi'lek, speaking of this, where the hell was she at the Battle of Scarif, Battle of Hoth, Yavin? I don't know. The more I think about it, I'm not liking her. I'm not liking Ahsoka too much. I don't know what she was doing. Anyways, always remember, my friends, it's great to be in the Empire today.